Hey there, Clara YouTubers. This time we're going to be talking about some information I think will help you more intelligently select a clarinet. And we're going to approach it from a little different aspect. First, we're going to be talking about what I would call invalid reasons for rejecting a clarinet. And then we're going to talk about actual valid reasons for rejecting a clarinet. So let's start with the invalid reasons first. Probably the most common objection you hear from clarinet players for rejecting a clarinet is it blows too resistantly. It's stuffy. It feels stuffy to me. Well, when you're trying clarinets of different brands, you should know that different models of clarinets have inherently different resistance formulas and a different resistance balance. And so in order to get the best out of each clarinet, you should take several different reeds of different strengths when you go to test clarinets. And the more resistant clarinets acoustically, then you can put lighter reeds on and you can get the very best out of them. And the heavier, the freer blowing clarinets, of course you'll want to use slightly heavier reeds in order to feel comfortable. Well, why should you do this? Well, one of the reasons is that even though a clarinet may play more resistantly, you may discover when you get a comfortable reed mouthpiece set up on it that it plays much more evenly, much more efficiently. It's just as flexible and you can get just as beautiful a sound with less work, and it's also more even in the phrasing. The point here is you need to use reeds that will enhance and make each clarinet play the best it can play. That way you can discover how good a clarinet really is and whether it's one you want to live with. Another reason for clarinet players rejecting a clarinet is that I don't like the keys. I don't like the key work. I don't like the feel of the keys. It just doesn't fit my hand at all. Well, you should know that probably one of the most adjustable things on the clarinet is the key work. A good, competent repair tech can place keys, key heights, and proximities so that they're more and more comfortable for you. And you also have to remember when you're playing a clarinet, you're always making reference to your older clarinet. You're saying to yourself, gee, this doesn't feel like my old clarinet, therefore it feels bad. No, you have to get used to that clarinet in a certain sense. And then finally, you might find, after playing it for just a short period of time, that you're quite comfortable with it and you've learned to make the adjustments that, cause those differences in feel when you first tried it. So it's not a really valid reason. So even after you played the clarinet for a while, and you find, gee, these keys just really don't fit my hand. I keep bumping into this key, and that key's too far, that key's too high. Almost every one of those things can be easily and quickly adjusted by a good, competent repair tech, and some of that work you can actually do for yourself. The next reason for rejecting clarinets is an even, dumber reason for rejecting the clarinet, and that is I don't like the spring tensions. The keys are hard to press down, or the keys are too light, but usually the complaint is the keys are too heavy. Well, again, spring tensions are easily adjustable by any good, competent repair tech, and let me recommend that you do that not only on, a clarinet that you might buy in the future, but that you do that to customize the clarinet that you have right now. Springs can be made lighter, they can be made heavier, firmer, just in a matter of seconds. But there is a certain kind of warning to those who want a lighter mechanism. There are certain keys, for instance, like the low A flat and the low F sharp, and the throat A as well, and the throat A flat. Those springs, if they're too light, the clarinet can actually blow the pads off the tone holes and the clarinet will leak, and you'll get some pretty unmusical noises out of the clarinet, say in playing a forte. I've actually seen some low F sharps and low A flats that were so weak that playing a low F at a forte volume, the clarinet player actually blew the key open, and you could hear it buzzing and making weird sounds as it opened and closed from the force of the air. So you have to have enough tension on those particular keys so that the pads remain firmly closed even when you're playing at full volumes. Otherwise, you're going to end up with trouble. But the point here is spring tensions are eminently adjustable quickly and easily and inexpensively. So that should not be a valid reason for rejecting a clarinet either. Well, so what are the really valid reasons for rejecting a clarinet? Well, there are two valid reasons. Actually, we might say three. One is that you don't like the sound of the clarinet. Even after you've given that clarinet its best shot, played an appropriate and comfortable reed on that clarinet, if you just don't like the sound of it, then it's probably not the clarinet for you. The second reason for rejecting a clarinet is its phrasing, its evenness in response, so to speak. If a clarinet is found to be uneven in response, no matter how good certain areas of the clarinet may sound to you, and no matter how much appeal a clarinet may have in, say, selected areas of the horn, then that clarinet's going to give you a nightmare when you actually try to play music on it. You're going to be struggling and working very hard to secure response, get good dependable intervals and all that. So uneven response is a very, very, very valid reason for rejecting a clarinet. Uneven resistance, of course, uneven resistance, uneven response is an effect of uneven resistance. Now, what do I mean by uneven resistance? I mean when resistance changes inherently in the tube of the clarinet, when you play, say, over the middle break, that long pipe notes get unusually stuffy and unusually resistant, so that they don't want to respond at lower dynamics, and also the dynamics and the color and the flexibility of the sound doesn't match very well the throat tones, okay? Or so that the long pipe notes in the right hand of the clarion register don't really match the resistance, flexibility, and color of the notes in the left hand of the clarion register, or that their resistance changes in and out of the upper clarion to the lower altissimo into the third register, say B to C sharp, B to D, A to D. Anywhere playing over the high break, you find that getting notes to respond securely with the same dynamic, getting smooth connections and intervals, those things are nightmarish, and those are acoustical problems that are much more difficult to correct than, say, a little bit of spring tension here, or maybe the position of a key or the height of a key there. Those are very easy things to adjust, but the acoustical things can probably not be fixed in many cases. So that's a valid reason for rejecting a clarinet. The other reason, the final reason for rejecting a clarinet is tuning. Now, what's a valid reason for rejecting a clarinet in terms of tuning? Is it because you find a note that's 5 or 10 or cents or so, or 15 cents out of tune once you've adjusted the clarinet and set it up to do a tuning test? That's not exactly a valid reason. The most valid reason has to do with tuning ratios. Now, what do I mean by tuning ratios? I mean the relationship of notes that come out of the same tone hole. For instance, low A and clarion E, right-hand clarion E, they come out of the same tone hole, which is the third finger hole on the right hand. Well, what if that low A is 10 cents sharp, okay? And the E is 10 cents sharp. Well, you know, that's a no-brainer. That's a real fixer, because you can lower them both and make them both perfect. So they have good ratios. If they had good ratios, then when you make the correction on one, the correction on the other is made. But what if that low A is 10 cents sharp and the E is well in tune? What are you going to do there? What if the low A is 15 or 20 cents sharp, and then when you play the 12th, you find that the E is in tune? How are you going to correct that A? Well, you'll have to lower the A. When you lower the A, what's going to happen? You're going to destroy the E. So you can only perfect the problem tuning note by destroying the one that's not a problem. Or let's say that, for instance, your thumb F is 5 cents. That is the thumb F, you know, when you play that. Let's say that's 5 or 10 cents flat. Okay, and then when you press the register key down, you get high C. What if that high C is 5 or 10 cents sharp? Well, that's a tuning ratio spread of 15 to 20 cents. So how do you correct the high F or the high C? Well, you add material to the tone hole to bring it down. But what's going to happen now to that F that's already 10 cents flat? That's going to be a big problem, okay? Because as you perfect the high C and get it close to in tune, you destroy the F and make it completely unplayable unless you do all kinds of additional things with mechanism, venting keys and all that to bring the F up. So those tuning ratios, when notes in tuning ratios move in opposite directions, we'll say one is sharp and one is flat, or one is in tune and the other is flat, or one is in tune and the other is sharp, that you know that in order to make corrections on one, you have to harm the other, okay? But if tuning problems are in the same direction, if both notes are sharp, even if they're sharp in different, say to different degrees, like an E may be 5 cents sharp and an A may be 10 cents sharp. Well, that can be corrected. As you correct the one note and bring it down perfectly, you're also making the other note, you know, more, say, user-friendly in terms of being able to adjust it and make it play in tune as well. So when tuning ratios are move in the same direction and they have problems in the same direction, then that's not really a reason for rejecting a clarinet. But when the tuning ratios are as such that in order to improve one, you have to make another worse and worse and worse, then that's a real problem. That's a real problem, and probably another clarinet would be best for you, especially nowadays when so many new models of clarinets tune better than clarinets ever have. We've really, in the clarinet world, never had it better. But in order to take advantage of all those good things in clarinets and clarinet building and improvements in tuning and improvements in resistance and all that, we have to know how to intelligently test clarinets. And I hope the information that I've given you here will help you do that.